welcome to Random Encounter 319 or 319. My name is Jono Logan, and guess what, everyone? It's finally here, the spring. So, March 20th, the first day of spring, and I gotta say, I don't know what it's like anywhere else, but here in Canada, it's actually been pretty beautiful. We've gotten some really nice weather the last few days, and obviously, I'm excited that winter is over, but you want to know the real reason why I'm kind of excited for this spring? It's because there is going to be so much that is happening. First up, the Nintendo Direct with the full announcement of the Switch 2 is going to be on April 2nd. So that's going to be in, holy crap, that's 10 days from now. As of this recording, who knows? Hopefully we're going to see some games. We're going to see some stuff that has not been announced, and we might even get an announcement of the release date. My personal hope is that it happens sooner rather than later. We are also having Summer Game Fest, which is happening, I think, the first week of June, which is before the summer. But hey, whatever. Jeff can do whatever the hell he wants. That's why he's Jeff. And the big news, the biggest news, the absolute biggest news is that we got the tiniest morsel, just the tiniest little tease of Silk Song from Xbox. So who knows if that is actually going to happen, but just that little tiny, that crumb of news has got the internet buzzing. So there is lots ahead, but there is lots happening right now too. We're going to be chatting about one of the biggest games coming out this month. And joining me for the first time on Random Encounter to talk about it is Tom. Hey, Tom.
Hey there.
So, just curious, what are you most excited about this spring?
Ooh.
Doesn't need to be video games, can be anything.
I mean, honestly, I wasn't originally, but that new game Atomfall by Rebellion seems like my kind of thing. Yeah, it seems like it's along that kind of vein as like Dead Island 2 the year before last, where it just kind of crept up on everyone, and it's like, oh, well, this game actually seems pretty good, so I'll definitely be checking that out. Yeah.
Oh, it looks so good, and I mean the buzz beforehand was people like, oh, London, England is finally getting a Fallout game, but apparently it's not that. It's a very different kind of game, but it's still a game with like exploration. It's super immersive. Apparently, you can turn the HUD off and stuff like that, which is really a neat thing.
And it's only 20 hours long, which some might say is a crutch, but I welcome that, to be honest.
20-hour game that goes in the pros column for me. Holy crap! Yeah. 20 hours, I could do that, no problem. Hey, if anyone wants a Fallout game set in England, you can have the mod Fallout London. It's real good. Or
you can just go to England.
You can just go to England. That's true. That's an adventure in and of itself. Okay, well, we're just killing time until the spring. And speaking about killing things, let's talk about Assassin's Creed. So, Assassin's Creed Shadow recently got released. For those, I mean, if you're listening to this, you know about Assassin's Creed, but I'll just give you a little bit of a heads up. The Assassin's Creed series launched in 2007. It was known for its blend of historical settings with stealth action gameplay and this weird modern sci-fi narrative framing. And these games were like super fun, super popular, very meme worthy on the internet, but they also weren't really in our coverage because, RPG, we cover RPGs. However, more recent titles in the latter half of the 2010s, like Assassin's Creed Origin and Assassin's Creed Odyssey, moved into large-scale RPGs rather than the more focused stealth-driven experiences. So all of a sudden, hey, we could cover them, and that's great. Since then, the series has kind of shifted back and forth between these two versions, these two genres. They're trying to find a balance. And unfortunately, while that was happening, the series started facing a lot of criticism in recent years for an over-reliance on open worlds, microtransactions, obviously, lack of innovation, all of these problems that pretty much every Ubisoft game of the same period suffered from, which is, of course, one of the reasons why the current narrative about Ubisoft is that they are in trouble and they really needed a hit. And they seem to have gotten one, which is kind of cool. So Assassin's Creed Shadows marked the series' long-awaited first entry going into feudal Japan. And unfortunately, this was not without controversy. Yasuke is one of the main characters, and they are a samurai of African origin, and this sparked a massive racist backlash against the game, despite the fact that he is actually based on a real historical figure who was African, an African samurai in Japan. Like, it's a fictional game, but this was based on a real person. And you also considered like multiple repeated delays to the game over time, which became a bit of a joke. It resulted in many people online hoping that the game would be an absolute disaster because, that's what we hope for now, apparently. We hope that a giant studio who makes amazing games is going to close. And send a lot of people out of work. That's something you hope for. But much to the surprise and delight of many and the dismay and denial of the reality on the right, impressions of Shadow across the board were almost universally positive. While it is not considered to be the high point of the series, it does appear to be one of the bright lights that Ubisoft needed. Positive reviews, word of mouth, and sales are generally very, very good. And I am, as someone who lives in Canada, and Ubisoft has a massive presence in Canada with a lot of Canadian devs, boy, that was welcome here. Tom, so you are reviewing Assassin's Creed Shadow. I don't know if the review will be out when this is going up yet, but it will be soon after, hopefully.
Next week, ideally, yeah.
So what is your overall takeaway from Assassin's Creed Shadow, and how does it compare to your expectations to the rest of the series?
I have to be honest and say that I never really, I don't want to say care for, but I never really paid attention to Assassin's Creed as a franchise very much until Origins, when it became an RPG. And you might say, like, well, that's when it was getting away from the series identity. What it's actually supposed to be is this kind of linear, sort of like murder puzzle game in a weird sort of way. Because, you have to find your target, you have to get to them, you have to kill them without anyone seeing, and then escape. And there is still a bit of that.
Hitman,
in the
if
RPG.
it was stealth action.
Yeah, exactly. There's still a bit of that in the RPG games, but, not as much as people would like, especially, classic fans would like. But yeah, I have to say, with Shadows, Ubisoft have definitely delivered on the long-awaited promise of a feudal Japan Assassin's Creed game, RPG or otherwise. Origins is definitely my favorite in the series, and of course my favorite of the RPG games. I would say, if we count Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, and now this in like a tier, I would say this is between Origins and Odyssey, with Valhalla being at the bottom. It corrects a lot of the problems that I had and many people had with Valhalla, which is just bloat, like so much stuff to do, and just overbearing amounts of content. This is a lot more scaled down. I mean, there's only one map this time to contend with, and
let's say focused.
Yeah, and it's decently sized. I mean, it's still vast. You're still going to get, plenty of room to run around in, but it's not so vast that you get overwhelmed and you almost don't even want to bother with exploring much of it, because there's just so much of it to get through.
Well, I think one of the things that this game, I think some folks had good faith concerns about the game, being that it had a dual protagonist system, which was, I presume, a way to circle the square of the stealth action gameplay of the original series and the more RPG combat focused side of the later series. So,
right, yeah, like have their cake and eat it too, sort of thing.
Exactly. So, look, tell us about the two protagonists, and we don't want too many story spoilers here, but tell us about the two protagonists and a little bit about their relationship.
Well, so Naue is the assassin of the duo. She's the daughter of, I'm probably going to butcher these names, but Nagato Fuji Bayashi, who was, I believe, a Ronin of the Iga clan or Iga region. Honestly, yeah, there's so much to this game, and not all of it is covered by the codex. So you kind of have to fill in a lot of the blanks with your own research. Yeah, and of course, Yasuke, who originally goes by the name Diogo, who is the bodyguard for these Portuguese Jesuit priests who want to set up a missionary in the area. And he crosses paths with Oda Nobunaga, who he then becomes the retainer for, and is taught the ways of being the samurai. So yeah, like you were saying, two sort of polar opposite ends of the spectrum in both like story context and gameplay context. You have this like big bruiser character, and then the much more nimble, light assassin who can do all these cool parkour things and climb much faster or at all. Whereas Yasuke is more of a ground level sort of character. I do have to say, and many other reviews have said this already, that it is quite a while into the game before you start actually playing as Yasuke. About 8 to 9 hours. The entire first act of the game is completely from Naue's perspective, which I was okay with, because it sets up the larger story, and as it's an Assassin's Creed game, you kind of want to get used to the Assassin's Creeding of it all, which now very much embodies. But then after that, you get to play Yasuke, and I don't want to say it becomes a whole new game, but it's definitely much more like in your face, combat heavy.
It opens up a new aspect of the game.
Exactly. And, Naoe isn't a slouch in combat either. She definitely has her own abilities, but she's much more of like a glass cannon compared to Yasuke, who can take a beating and just as well give a really good beating. So, yeah, so like in the game, whenever you come across like an encampment full of enemies, you can either stealth and assassinate, try and get through the whole area that way, or you can just break down the front door and kill everyone at once, make yourself known, and just swing at them all with massive weapons. So whatever takes your fancy, the game does not shy away from letting you have that choice.
See, I do think that's an interesting choice to like. They really, really spotlighted the two characters, and that one of them doesn't show up for quite some time is an interesting choice. But I do like the fact that they kind of they put their foot down on the Assassin's side of things off the top and say, okay, this is going to be a slight return to form and focus for the Assassin's Creed series, while also we're still, having that RPG, not necessarily open world style, but that amount of content that is there. The game isn't an open world, right? Like there are dedicated areas that you travel through as you progress the plot.
Yeah, so there are like level gated regions of the map. And like the first region you're in is, of course, the lowest level. And, there's a lot of content. Pretty much the entire first act takes place in that area. And then it really opens up when like the real crux and meat of the main plot kicks off, and when you finally meet Yasuke and you two become a duo and you can now freely switch between them, then it opens up completely and becomes this sort of almost non-linear, like you have a list of targets and you can approach those targets in any order, although there are set levels for each of them, so there is like a suggested order to them. But that's when it really does become, like you were saying, that sort of Hitman social stealth playground sort of game that people are used to and love about the series. So it is really the best of both worlds.
How does the quest series work here? Because I understand, there's still a lot of RPG-esque stuff here, and questing and side quests are some of them. So how does that work?
Yeah, so I will say what definitely helps with that is that unlike the past Assassin's Creed RPG games, even Origins, which is of course my favorite, whenever you get to a high point and synchronize with the area, which is like the trope of or one of the tropes of the Assassin's Creed series. In previous games, that would like your compass and minimap and map would just become inundated with so many there's something over here, there's something over here, they all activate at once, and you just become so overwhelmed. But this time, you have to actively seek them out to actually activate them on your map and see what they are. So in that way, it definitely encourages exploration and discovery a lot more. And that lends itself into the quests, where, of course, you have your main quests, but in every area, every new town you enter, you also have side quests and like smaller sort of menial little tasks that you can do that, these aren't just on your map from the start, so like there's a quest over here, there's a quest over here. You have to happen upon these towns, and people will try and get your attention, and you talk to them, and then they give you the quest. And if you're doing if you have guided exploration mode off, which it tells you to toggle right at the start, if you have that off, it then gives you like hints towards the general area of where the quest is. And you sort of cross-reference that with your map and go to the area and seek them out yourself. Or, of course, you can go the classic way and just have, markers for every objective, whatever takes your fancy. You're definitely not limited in that regard.
In terms of the side quests, and actually, let's just say the rest of the world activities, without getting into spoilers, did you have a particular favorite side quest or something that you really kind of went, oh, this is kind of fun, I like this?
Well, yes, and it is actually a major part of the game is that you get a hideout, a base of operations that you can sort of improve and build on gradually throughout the game as you know, pilfer camps of more resources and gather more allies from out in the world that will actually join you at your camp, and that you can summon in combat to help you whenever you want, with a cooldown, of course. And it's really cool because whenever you get in the menu to improve the hideout, it sort of becomes this management simulator game. It goes into a top-down view, and it gives you the whole layout of the hideout area, and you can freely build whatever you want there. You know, you can build like stables, or you can build like camps for your like scouts that will go out in the world and collect and gather resources for you.
Assassin's Creed Sims.
Yeah, basically. And you can even, you're going to love this, every animal that you meet in the game, and of course you can pet most of them, as is a requirement with games now, as it should be. Every animal you pet in the open world, they then come to your hideout, and there's no limit on them. So you can have a whole farm if you want. Like every cat you meet, every dog you meet, they can all go back to your hideout, and you can meet them all whenever you finish an objective, which is just so delightful. Something they didn't need to do at all, but seeing as it's in the game, I couldn't imagine what the game would be without it. It's just so wonderful, which is not something I would think I would say about an Assassin's Creed game. But amidst all the murder and the violence and the mayhem, there is this sweetness of like seeing a kitten in the middle of the street and then taking it back home with you and sort of raising it up and letting it run around. So yeah, it's weirdly magical, much like Wanderstop, weirdly magical.
Yeah. How does the game look? I mean, the nice thing about the Assassin's Creed series is they always look real, real good. I wouldn't call them like graphical showcases for a platform, but they're always really solid.
The great thing about it is that even on the base PS5 model, which is where I've been playing, which is one of the more, well, quote unquote, inferior versions, of course. Xbox Series S would be the most inferior. No offense to Series S owners and lovers. I am one myself. It even without all of the fancy ray tracing stuff, it still looks great. You know, they have their own baked in lighting system, and they've built the game from the ground up so that ray tracing is on in some capacity no matter what. So it's always going to look great no matter what. And like even on the lowest ray tracing settings, it just means that ray tracing is applied to your hideout. So your hideout is the only place that's going to look like shiny and magical, but you know, of course, you visit and revisit that place a lot, so it's going to stick out a lot more. But yeah, don't be dissuaded if you want to play it on base PS5 model 60 frames. Don't be discouraged by the lack of like ray tracing across the board. It still looks great. The game looks great no matter what, and I'm sure if you have a PS5 Pro or like a 5090 or something, it's just like it looks incredible. So yeah, no matter what system you're on, it looks great. You know, clearly the extra time with all the delays and such were, you know, put into that to really make it pop, and it does pop, and it looks incredible.
You want to know what? Those delays, as much as people were like, oh no, the game is going to be terrible, I am unbelievably thankful for them. I think it is a testament to Ubisoft, especially considering the importance of this game, and clearly like Ubisoft management want to get out the door as fast as possible to be a success. But the fact that they actually said, okay, we're in trouble now. Instead of releasing this as a buggy mess that everyone will go, well, that's Ubisoft. It seems like they actually took the time, sat down, and I would imagine did a lot of bug fixing to make this thing work properly on both PS5 and on PCs. I really appreciate that. That's something that we should encourage in the game industry.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, and I mean, it's just fact, is that delays are always good. You know, even if the game turns out not to be that great, it's always going to be better than the version we would have originally got, Cyberpunk, if it wasn't delayed. So yeah, I'm always pro delay, and if they shouldn't have to happen at all, but if they do happen, that's always a good thing. More time spent on the game, more time bug fixing, that's always good. And yeah, you can really tell with this one. This is definitely out of the box. I mean, I've had a few like annoying little issues, but no more than any other game I play on release or otherwise. You know, out of the box, it just looks and runs great. No problems at all there. Yeah, you can tell they really. I've seen a lot of people say that, oh, this is Ubisoft's make or break game, and I don't know if that's necessarily true or not. But what I can say is that the time they put into it was worth it, because this is Ubisoft's best looking and best running and really best playing game in quite some time, in my opinion.
I mean, they got dragged for, what was their, I think the last big game they had was Star Wars Outlaws, and they got dragged for the bugs in that game. Lots of memes online of just random graphical bugs and stuff like that. And from what I've seen, and it's been out for a few days now, there hasn't been a lot of mocking of that. Sometimes I feel the incentive system that's in place for bug fixing is weird, because it's the kind of thing, no one notices something that works. Everyone notices when something doesn't. So studios very rarely get like credit if the game works properly. Because I guess that should, in an ideal world, it should be the default. Of course it works properly. We're paying for it. But when it doesn't, they really get dragged for it. So yeah, I haven't seen anything particularly game breaking about this thus far. So that's wonderful.
I mean, it's a testament that the big controversy surrounding the game now is just about Yasuke and not about the game itself. Because, you know, technically the game itself is perfectly fine across the board. It's just, you know, that's a testament to how good it's running and playing for people, because, you know, they have to find this whole other thing to bitch and moan about instead.
They already have. I don't know if you've seen the controversy about the Japanese shrines.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Apparently some right-wing idiots reached out to some Japanese politicians and got them to say some things like, this is very disrespectful. And they all hopped on this. And it's like, what the hell is wrong with you idiots? You have no problem with the desecration of like Christian sites in the other games, or like if this is just part of the stupid game, like all of them have this.
Yeah, I mean, in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, one of the primary mechanics for resource gathering was to go on raids and indeed raid churches.
I believe in one game you can punch the Pope.
You beat the shit out of the Pope. Yeah, it's like, why is that okay and this isn't? It's very interesting.
These are the exact same people who are supposedly against censorship in games. That's their entire motto. But at the same time, they're like, oh, this is disrespectful. And it's like, wow, you guys are drowning and you're desperately trying to get some water. The last thing I wanted to ask you about Assassin's Creed Shadows is something that the series has become known for in the last few years, and that's virtual tourism. In Origins, you got to explore a virtual ancient Egypt. In Odyssey, a virtual ancient Greece. Is there that here as well? Like, can you visit places that are historical sites and, like, you know, virtual tourism in the past?
I will say I love that stuff as well. I will say there's not as much of it as I would have liked. I believe in the past 2 Assassin's Creeds that have come out, the virtual tourism stuff have been like separate experiences that come out after launch. That may well be the case for this also. But yeah, I know that they've been really successful and have actually been used in like classroom settings. I mean, one of my gripes would be that I'd say the codex isn't as sort of lengthy and ambitious, for lack of a better word, as it could be with how much it gives you, how much it tells you. But yeah, I mean, it's decent enough. It gives you, you know, appropriate context for the various regions and like what's going on at the time, but not necessarily for the individual historical characters that you meet in the plot, which is where I really needed it for a lot of them, because there are a lot of names and a lot of faces that you meet throughout the story. So yeah, I don't know if that's something they were planning to add, you know, after the fact to the main game, or be a part of the whatever virtual tourism stuff they bring out for it, if they do at all.
I kind of hope they do, because I think that's always been one of the coolest parts of the recent series.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's a testament to how good these games look and how, well, apparently how faithful they are to the time period, in that they are able to do that and they are successful educational tools.
Which is really, really neat. Well, I gotta say, I was extraordinarily relieved when this thing came out to positive reviews, because we have gotten so much bad news about studio closures and other things like that. And Ubisoft, you know, there has been a lot of talk about them being on the ropes. And the reality is that Ubisoft is not one studio. Ubisoft owns like I don't know, 50, like
It's ridiculous, yeah.
all across the world. Like it's not, they don't just like 100 devs at one thing. Like if Ubisoft folds, you're going to see literally thousands of devs losing their job, and anyone who is cheering for that, oh my God, you're a terrible person.
I mean, anyone that is cheering for people losing their jobs in that context, or I mean, mostly any context, is just, I mean, just get real. Like,
I suppose our argument is that Ubisoft deserves it because of this bad behavior. And it's like, okay, maybe management does, but management's not going to get punished. Management is just going to get hired at other places.
Yeah, the employees, the people that bring you the actual game itself, they're always the ones that get punished, and they're the least to blame every single time.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Ubisoft is blameless here.
No,
like,
of course, yeah.
There's a lot of cases of, obviously a lot of broken games are released, a lot of uninspired games are released, and certainly a lot of burnout with their devs. But also, like, that can change, that can improve. But if everything closes, or worse, if they're bought by, like, I don't know, a capital investment firm or something like that who ends up selling everything for parts, like, do you really want, I know that it's not a thing anymore, but like, does anyone want an Embracer Group style business coming in and taking over Ubisoft? That is a horrible idea. Anyway, I'm going to use that to pivot to our next game, actually, even though it slightly sounds cynical, with Burnout.
Yeah.
I didn't mean that, but I'm going to take this transition and I'm going to run with it. So let's talk about Burnout for a second, specifically in the context of a delightful video game that came out a few weeks ago, Wanderstop. So I don't know if this name is going to be recognizable to anyone listening to this podcast. I hope it is. Davey, Wreden. So this is a dev who created two games in the early and mid 2010s. The first one is the Stanley Parable, which I suspect everyone knows, and the Beginner's Guide, which I suspect fewer people know, but is a real interesting game. So
I would say, I mean, controversial, but I would say it's the better of the two. So it is kind of a shame that it's the one that people have played the least.
Well, the Beginner's Guide is a fascinating game for several reasons. It's kind of a walk through gaming history in a way, and like internet development and fan culture, and it tells a very interesting, intriguing, very meta story that is engrossing. Whereas the Stanley Parable is again, meta narrative, but it's a breakdown of all of the tropes of video games and how they work and things we expect. Stanley Parable 2 came out a little while ago. I loved it. I thought it was great. Thought it was a perfect follow-up. This is a very big departure for him because it is not a first-person game, and it is taking on a genre which, frankly, is kind of a surprise, and that's the cozy game. So the idea of Wanderstop apparently emerged from his desire to create a game centered around personal healing and tranquility, inspired by his own experiences with burnout. And I wanted to ask, how does this game differ from his previous, more meta-textual games? And not just in terms of genre, because obviously very different genre.
Right.
But
it's interesting because, it was the fact that he was attached to this, like, surprised a lot of people because, I mean, obviously from the initial reveal trailer a year or two ago, it seemed like there was something more to it, which there is, but not like on the level that you might expect coming straight off of Stanley Parable and Beginner's Guide. And I believe that, speaking of like metatextually, I believe that plays into it as well because the burnout that he said he was inspired by, I'm pretty sure I read that it was like the pressures of trying, making a third game to follow up on the two very like meta heavy games that he made previously. And, that's sort of feeding into this game with it being a much more, I don't want to say normal, but much more conventional kind of game. And much, cozier. Yeah.
And the game actually has quite a bit of, I would say, a pedigree aside from that. Another person who is very heavily involved with this game is Carla Jamonja, and they are best known as a director of Gone Home, a writer of Tacoma. Gone Home was was one of the early walking simulator games, which I adore. I think it's wonderful. Tacoma followed up on that with a space station-esque narrative. You're trying to figure out what happened on the space station. I enjoyed both games quite a bit. How did I imagine that their experience with adventure games, narrative adventure games, influence Wanderstop? Can you see that in there?
Well, as I say in my review, this is definitely like a cozy game for people that don't like cozy games. So that even if you couldn't care less about cozy games, you never really got the appeal, which was sort of where I was when I started playing this. There's enough like narrative through line throughout the game to keep you going. There's always like a carrot on the stick for you to be chasing in terms of plot. And yeah, which I believe is where, you know, Carla's pedigree comes in and where her hand was dealt there. And yeah, well, you can definitely feel the Daveyism of it all in terms of the dialogue, and it is hilarious. Like, I can't remember the last time that a game made me genuinely laugh out loud, but Wanderstop did multiple times. It's just so ridiculously funny, which is par for the course with him if you've played his games before. It's just really funny.
Oh yeah, they're absolutely hilarious. It's fascinating because most cozy games, let's just take the current king of the crop, which would be Stardew Valley. It's a farm game, but it would be considered a cozy game. There are so many different activities you can do. You can farm, you can cook, you can explore, you can, hook up with the villagers. And the setup of that is that you are an employee at a soulless corporation, I think Jojo Mart, and you are done with it, and then your grandfather leaves you the farm, and you go to the farm. Basically, the setup of Harvest Moon, because you're burnt out and you want a different life. But the reality is, your character in Stardew Valley isn't burnt out. Like, once you get there, you kind of work tirelessly on the farm. This is specifically a game about burnout and its impact on you as a person and how you need to process that and deal with it. So it's not just a cozy game; it's a cozy game with a purpose.
Yeah, and the protagonist Alta is, that's something she's really struggling with, sort of in a meta way, which I suppose, that is Davey's forte. In a meta way, like, she like can't even handle the fact that she's in a cozy game, sort of like she's someone who always needs an end goal, like always needs something to be building towards, whether it's like an idea or like, or like a weapon that she needs to be worthy of. There's always something for her. Whereas with Wanderstop and, running and helping manage this tea shop, she sort of hits a brick wall with the fact that there isn't really anything she needs to do, other than to just make tea and chill out. And that's something she's like physically incapable of doing. And she, much of the story is about her trying to push past that barrier and learning, to tell herself that it really is okay to slow down and take a break every once in a while. You don't have to keep, grinding and grinding and grinding. Yeah.
So what exactly is the setup of the plot here? I understood in your review, apparently the main character is kind of an adventurer, like a person that we would see as the protagonist of, let's say, a more active game. And she kind of runs into a wall.
Yeah, so she's a former arena fighter, undefeated champion for, I believe, 3 years by the time that the plot starts. And then all of a sudden, one day, she loses a fight, and she's like, oh, that's weird. Well, maybe the next one. But then she loses that fight, and she just keeps losing fights until she realizes, oh, there's like something wrong with me. I've been lacking in my training. I need to go into the woods and seek out Master Winters, who's like this, legendary warrior. And she can train me up again, forge me a new sword, and I can get back to it. But, as she's running to meet her, she collapses, and she's brought back to Wanderstop, this nice little tea shop in the middle of this magical forest, by a large and kind man named Borrow, who is a complete sweetheart and just says, hey, it's okay, just rest up. If you want to make tea with me, you can leave at any time. I'm here to help. But she just finds herself, she just can't. She can't pick up her sword, physically cannot pick up her sword, even though other people, including Borrow, can easily pick it up. So, it sort of becomes this existential crisis for her, where she's just bringing herself down, oh, I'm so weak, I can't even pick up my sword anymore, what good am I? And yeah, I mean, the crux of the plot is overcoming that hurdle and being realizing that you're burned out and that you don't necessarily want to be an arena fighter anymore. But now then, what do you want to be? What does the rest of your life look like? And, the much of the game is Alta coming to terms with that and figuring out what her answer to that question is.
It's a very, very good metaphor because I think everyone has at some point, but I personally can relate to the idea that a few months into the pandemic, I was a copywriter, and I was writing for months and months. I was writing nonstop blogs for every company that all started with "in this difficult time," and it was just like the same thing over and over again. And eventually, I got so burnt out that I could not write. It was weird. And this level of burnout really showed itself. Like, I got stuck on writing the crosscode review for, I'm not kidding, weeks. Like, I needed to write it, and I wanted to write it, and I knew what I needed to say, and I knew what I wanted to say, but I just couldn't type. I couldn't sit down at the keyboard. And that is very much reflected. I imagine that's also what Wreden went through, and that's reflected in the idea that she just can't pick up her sword.
Yeah, definitely. And one of my favorite things about it is that you're never given any overt answers. It never really preaches anything to you, even though it would be well within its right to do so, especially about a topic that so many people can relate to. If, we all lived through COVID. It never says, oh, this is why she can't pick up her sword. This is why she's stuck. It just sort of shows you, like, in a linear fashion, everything that's happening to her at the present moment in real time. And you're, like, left to draw your own conclusions, and you start to, put pieces together and realize, oh, she's just in a rut and she can't get out. And, whether the not being able to pick up the sword is because, she is weak or she is just tired. I mean, the game never says, but you can definitely infer your own answer from, the game's events and everything that you find out about her as a character.
Yeah, it doesn't take the narrative easy way out.
No, not at all. Yeah.
I think the other part of the game, and this is the part that I think a lot of people were kind of concerned. Like, I don't think anyone had any concerns that this was going to be well written and it was going to be interesting. I think the part that people were a little bit concerned about was, okay, it's also going to have gameplay mechanics, like cozy gameplay mechanics. And in this case, it's brewing tea and gardening. What is that like? And how does this remain engaging even for folks who aren't particularly interested in management sims and obviously like farm games?
Well, I will say, as one of those people through and through, not for lack of trying and not for lack of interest, it's just never clicked with me.
I tried that. I Stardew Valley, I played for like at least 10 hours and I was just like, this isn't working.
Yeah, that was the exact same with me. If you are that kind of person, you would be surprised how quickly you become acclimated, much like Alta does, to the process of making tea. Yeah, I wouldn't say the game actually does anything radical to, shift that perspective in you and, make you realize, oh, this is actually fun. It really is like the context of the narrative and the characters that you meet and how strong the writing is that sort of lend themselves to how good the gameplay actually is, even for someone who isn't interested in the kinds of games that this, the gameplay of Wanderstop represents. Picking ingredients, it's like when you're planting seeds that then become like ingredients for certain flavors that customers ask for their tea. You're sort of given like this hexagonal grid, and putting certain plants in certain configurations, makes sort of superfoods or, super plants that you can then take and throw into the brewing pot and make new ingredients. And like, you can just tell that they've fine-tuned everything. I'm not sure how long they actually worked on Wanderstop, but you can tell that they fine-tuned to a millimeter, like how snappy and satisfying the actual process of gathering ingredients, throwing them in the mixture, and then actually brewing the tea is. Because, like, it's not overwrought. It doesn't take up too much of your time every time you have to do it. From getting an order to fulfilling that order, the whole process takes about 5 minutes, if that. It's not a very long game. comparatively speaking, with a lot of its contemporaries. It's sort of 10 hours long total, which, some may disagree with that kind of length, but I think it's perfect for a game like this. The story does everything it needs to, and it gives you just enough of a taste of the management sim kind of gameplay without it feeling like, okay, I've had enough of this, which you start to feel that a little bit by the end, but in a very natural way along with the character, not in a way that's like, I'm bored of this game now, but like sort of, yeah, okay, much like Alta, things are winding down and I want to be moving on now. It all happens in a very natural, fluid way.
That's really smart. The idea that this is something that she needed to do to heal, and as she is healing, she is starting to feel that urge, that twitch to go back out again.
Yeah, definitely.
That's very smart. Very smart. Okay, so you gave this an 88. You gave it an editor's choice. You really, really enjoyed it. Just one last question about it. Like you clearly very much enjoy Beginner's Guide and Stanley Parable. Mm-hmm. What made Wanderstop a standout experience for you, even enjoying it more than those two games?
Weirdly enough, I think the fact that it wasn't like those two games is what I liked about it. I mean, of course, bringing Carla on board, and of course, I mean, we haven't even mentioned the incredible music by C418, Daniel Rosenfeld, who is most famously the composer of Minecraft. I mean, he hasn't lost a beat. The soundtrack in this game, no notes, perfect. You did your thing. It's fantastic. It's. I mean, the fact that you are expecting that kind of meta game, that meta narrative, but instead it hits you with some like some real truths about burnout and like being your own worst enemy that you might not have even necessarily been like realized about yourself. But as you're going on this journey with Alta, you're like, oh wow, that applies to me as well. Like I needed this as much as she did. And, going along in this process, I mean, it is kind of healing in a sort of, corny sort of way. The game really does its job. And I suppose, like, I can't speak for Stanley Parable or Beginner's Guide, but the fact that this was such a personal project for Davey, like, it really comes through, and like it just floors you with its narrative. Like I knew I was going to enjoy the writing because I've liked the writing of his previous games, as you have, and that definitely delivers, like, comedically, and how sharp and quick the lines are. But also, like, there's much more of an emotional depth to this than even in Beginner's Guide, which is a very emotional game in its own way. This is much more hard hitting, and I think in a post-COVID world, it especially hits. Like, if this came out beforehand, I'm not sure if it would have resonated as much as it does, but in some way, I believe we all felt the sting of burnout and, like, putting yourself down and self-doubt during COVID and working through COVID. I mean, I'm sure
in many cases we still are 5 years later.
Yeah, well, there's still fallout from that and everything that's going on in the world. So, I mean, to answer your question, really, I'd say much of it, in a grander sense, comes down to the fact that Wanderstop just felt like the right game to be playing at the exact right time. And it, delivered a hard-hitting message without being too preachy, without like, oh, okay, this is a metaphor for this, we get it, very clever, blah, blah, blah. Not in a cynical way, just very honest and very, like, it's okay to reach out. It's okay to, be burned out on what you love. And it's especially, most of all, the key lesson, it's okay to take a break and reprioritize and ask yourself, what do you actually want to be doing? And it's just, like I said, it's the perfect game for it's a perfect game for an imperfect time, certainly. Yeah. That's
really nice to hear. And it's really nice to hear that it's well written too. I would have been very surprised if it wasn't, considering its pedigree. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to move now. I'm going to take I'll take the well-written line, and I'll use that to pivot as well. So I'm going to pivot to talking about a game that I reviewed a few weeks ago. And it was a few weeks ago, but honestly, I just want to keep talking about it. I'd like to bring some more attention to it because I just adored it. It's called Expelled, an Overboard game. So this is the newest game from Inkle, and they are a UK-based studio. They are known for creating incredibly innovative and engaging visual novels, adventure games. Their output includes Sorcery with an exclamation point, 80 Days, an adaptation of Around the World in 80 Days, Heaven's Vault, basically an archaeology simulator, and their last game before this one was called Overboard, exclamation point. They really like exclamation points. And Overboard was released in 2021, and it's a time loop game, and it puts a really interesting spin on an Agatha Christie style murder mystery. So your main character you're on a boat in the middle of the water. You can't get off. There's a limited number of people on the boat, and the character's Veronica's husband dies. And the central theme is, okay, you need to figure out who did it, just like Agatha Christie. Well, no, because it turns out that you did it. You know you did it. And the twist is you need to go around the boat, putting in false leads, false clues, finding other people with other potential motives to kill your husband, framing them, and get out of it in the end with your inheritance and your freedom intact.
That is really cool. Has that even been done before? That's super unique to me, anyway.
It's really interesting. It's a combination of like a narrative-based roguelike, because it restarts whenever you fail, and it's also very inspired by like the methodical planning and time management of a Hitman game, because once you're on the boat, time is always passing. And characters are moving around the boat, and they will always be in the exact same place at the exact same time. Things will always happen in the same order. So you need to learn the order of events and placements of people and everything in order to set things up. I adored it. I reviewed it a few years ago, just loved it. And it was a critical success. It was praised for its premise and the replayability of the game, because there are multiple endings, multiple choices. You can frame dozens of people. And they decided to make not a sequel, but a semi-sequel, kind of a game in the exact same genre using a very similar art style called Expelled. So this is the new game from Inkle, and it follows a character named Verity, and she is a student at a British boarding school in 1922. And she is falsely accused, of pushing a school prefect, Louisa Hardcastle, through a stained glass window. And she is expelled for this. And then the game restarts, and the player must relive the day over and over and over again, discovering the secrets and routines of the various people in this boarding school to solve the mystery of what actually happened in the tower and get yourself out of trouble. So again, there are elements where you need to find the culprit, but maybe you don't need to find the culprit. Maybe you can just frame somebody else for it so you don't get in trouble. And this is a really, really fascinating game. It is so cool. Every day begins with you in the tower, where Louisa smashes the window with your hockey stick, framing you, and then falls. And then you can just explore the school while managing time to avoid being caught. So there are so many systems in place here that I'm not even going to get into tons of them, but there is a interesting morality system where the more bad things you do, the more naughty choices you make, the more options that are available to you. So you need to be very specific in picking your naughtiness options to increase your rank from just a mischief maker to nastiness to even maybe evil in order to accomplish your goals. Because if you remain a goody two shoes, you are never going to get out of this. She can't survive in this world. She needs to get bad.
Break bad.
Yeah, exactly. The game's inventory is pretty, it's a basic kind of adventure game. You have like a little inventory system, nothing super, super big. The real currency here, though, the real items is the information that you gather in the runs, where you can learn new gossip about a variety of people, their secrets, various other things like that. The trick is, of course, that knowing those allows you to open up new conversational options and new paths, but that's reset at the beginning of every run. Well, you might remember it. No one else, including Verity, will. So there is an item that you can find, I'm not going to ruin it, somewhere in the game that will allow Verity to remember or relearn all of the things that she's learned in past runs to really, really open the game up. But you need to figure out how to get that item consistently.
Oh, that's like it's like Deathloop, sort of.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed Deathloop. I thought it was a pretty good game.
Yeah.
Didn't enjoy it as much as Dishonored, but I mean, it was a time loop Dishonored.
Yeah.
But yeah, quite a bit like that. Yeah, except that she doesn't need to die in a machine to get this magical ability. The thing about this game is it's very visually unique. Well, not visually unique. It pulls from Overboard, but whereas Overboard had like cartoony characters that had thick white outlines around them. This game, very similar art style, but has blackish brown outlines around them. Character designs really capture the 1920s. There's one thing, which is the head of the school, Miss, I think it's Melgotani. I was writing the review for the game, and a friend of mine walked up behind me and looked at a screenshot with Miss Melgotani and said, "Is that Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor?" Because the characters look quite a bit alike. Anyway, despite the fact that it has a very on the surface level, it looks like it has a static presentation, not a whole lot of animation, but that hides a really deceptive. It's deceptively simple. It hides a very cinematic look with cutscenes and split screens and other things where you see things happening in really rapid, fast order. The characters in this game are simply wonderful. You have Verity's roommate, Natty, who has a secret, and you need to develop your relationship with them. There's a younger student named Susan, who is like this goody two-shoes, just like try hard, and you can get to know them, and maybe you can use them. Louisa is even in there, and once you learn Louisa's secrets, you might even get a little bit more sympathy for Louisa, despite the fact that they framed you. The game... I'm trying to think about what I didn't like about the game, because I really liked it. But you can't just say, it's perfect, because it's not. I would say the biggest miss for me is, though it has a really cool opening theme, the music of the game uses authentic 1920s compositions, and they set the period right. But everything else in the game feels very, like it's very bespoke. And the music, though, it's in there and it works. It's the right time period. It feels less handmade. Like I really wish they had got someone in there who could have composed a pastiche 1920s compositions that could speak more to the game itself.
So you can definitely hear the difference in the music.
Yeah, you can, because like the opening theme is original and it's really exciting and interesting, and then it cuts to like almost slightly grainy background music, like it's on a gramophone record. Mm-hmm. This game is just an improvement. I think it's an improvement in every way over Overboard, and I loved Overboard. It features a bigger world to explore, more characters, more potential options, way more secrets that you can learn. Tons of replay value here for a visual novel, especially because the game keeps unlocking endings, and once you get to a final ending, you're like, all right, that's the end, and the game restarts. But something has changed a little between the runs. I'm not going to spoil anything, but like, subtle things keep changing between runs as you learn more information or as you experience different things. And this keeps happening over and over again, to the point where I beat the game. I got 2 endings, but like there's more I could do. I could probably play this for another 10 hours or so, continuously unlocking new endings. It's simply one of the best puzzle box games I've ever played. Exceptional writing, beautiful art, compelling environment. The time loop works extraordinarily well. I think it's just a work of art. And I think that Inkle, I realized that after doing 2 of these games, like Overboard and Expelled and Overboard Story, that Inkle might be a little tired and they might want to try something different. But I would be totally a fan of them if they wanted to cap this off with a trilogy and do one more game in the series. I think that would be, I would be fine with that, because I just adore these things. They're so good. I think you'd like them, Tom. I know the games that you like, and I think that you'd really like these games.
Yeah, I mean, you're selling me on it with everything you say about it. Just to ask, so you get an unlimited amount of retries in these time loops then? You're not, like, constrained by, you can only reset a number of times before the game ends?
No, every single time. The game will end either with you expelled, or, I mean, in some cases, maybe even you dead if you make some really stupid choices, but those are very, very rare. It doesn't feel particularly outlandish or weird. There is, it's funny, in Overboard, there is no real reason for the time loop. It just kind of happens. Like there's no central Groundhog Day mechanic. Here there is. Here it's Verity sitting in the pub after the events of the day, and her father is there to pick her up after she has been expelled. And she is retelling the events of the day, but her story keeps changing every single time. So that's the central conceit, but Yeah, you can restart as many times as you want. You can, in the middle of a run, if it's not going well or you miss something, you can just restart right there through the menu options, or you can go up to the headmistress and just say, yeah, I'm done, expel me, and that'll just end the run. And it always starts in the same place, and the clock is always ticking. I think it starts at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and then it ends, I think, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So between those times, you can do anything. You can explore the school. You can attend class even, because it is a school. You can get lost in the catacombs. So much to do, and I think I've done more than scratch the surface, but there's still a lot more there.
In terms of the like investigation part of things, what would you compare this to?
I wouldn't compare it to like Ace Attorney or anything like that. I think you're very familiar with the Ace Attorney games, right? Yeah, I wouldn't compare it to that. The investigative portions of it involve essentially dialogue options at the bottom of the page, where it's either you're talking to another character or talking to yourself. So you can be in. Okay, let's put you in the clock tower, because this won't be a spoiler, because it's literally the first part of the game. You're in the clock tower. Louise has just jumped out. It's 7:05, so you can choose what you want to do. You can look out the window at her below on the ground, or you can check out the hockey stick on the floor and realize, wait a sec, this isn't her hockey stick, this is my hockey stick. And then you need to figure out what to do with it. You can tuck it under your arm and leave, or you can throw it out the window. You can go through the books on the shelf. There are so many choices here and so many character options. There's a lot of player agency in this game. But no, it's not like a Ace Attorney style, like point and click around the environment. You are limited by the choices that Verity provides you with, but those choices are always expansive in a way that actually surprises you. Like some of the things that you can do in this game, you will be shocked that they actually went to those lengths and put them in there. And there are so many hidden options. I'm trying to think of a spoiler that doesn't actually spoil anything. Okay, like for example, Louise is on the ground, right? And she just framed you, and she's not dead. She's just unconscious. And you know she's unconscious, but if she is still awake, if she's still conscious, then she can say Verity did it. So you need to silence her. So how do you do that? Okay, well, the front door to the school is locked until later in the day, so you can't get through there. You can go back to your dorm room and try the window there and climb through the window there, but the problem is that it's stuck. It hasn't been opened in years. Okay, so what if you bring your hockey stick with you? Okay, you bring your hockey stick in, and maybe you can like slam the hockey stick into the lock, trying to unlock the window, and maybe that might work, or maybe you might smash the glass, which will certainly draw attention to you. It's choices like those that unfold and unlock, and you can discover them. That really, really impresses me about this game. There's so much freedom. Tom, I recommend, if you're thinking about playing this, I highly recommend it. You do not need to play Overboard to enjoy this game. Overboard might give you a little bit more context, because there are some themes in this game that were carried over. And I think that it would give you a better foundation to enjoy this game, because it's a little simpler. It's not simple, but it's a little simpler. This is a perfect sequel. I guess it's not a sequel. This is a perfect follow-up to the mechanics of Overboard.
It doesn't like step over the original. You can still play the original and have just as good a time. It's not like it doesn't overdo anything.
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
And incidentally, I would recommend all of Inkle's games. Like these, they have not made a bad game. And some of their games that have been released over the last few years, like Sorcery, their first game, it was released in 4 parts. It's available on PC. I believe it was originally a mobile game, but it builds on a tabletop adventure system that was developed by Terry Jackson. There are 2 Terry Jacksons, and incidentally, both of them were involved in tabletop RPGs, but this is the British one. And it's his world and his game books. And you are given a map, and there are markers on the map, and you choose which markers to go to, and you are on a quest, and those markers determine the way the quest unfolds. And it's a choose your own adventure style story with some combat in it as well. 80 days, again, you're trying to get around the world in 80 days. It's just like in the Jules Verne novel, but you have to make choices to do that. They just do astonishingly detailed, beautiful narratives with so many choices in them. They're an amazing studio. And also their output is insane. Like in the last 10 years, they've released like 7 or 8 games that are not small.
Are they all like as good? Like they're consistent critically?
Yeah, not a miss. At least in my opinion, not a miss. Wow. Let's see here. Inkle, I just want to give you, I mentioned a few of them. So, so Sorcery, yeah, 80 Days. Heaven's Vault, which was released in 2019. It was like a archaeology simulator kind of thing. Pendragon was released the following year, and it was a tactics-like game, but also had a big story behind it. There was Overboard. Between Overboard and Expelled, they released a Highland Song, which is like a side-scroller set in Scotland. And again, wonderful. Very, very immersive games. And I think that anyone would enjoy them. But if you enjoy adventure games and enjoy visual novels and enjoy just really detailed, character-driven, choice-driven narratives, you can't beat them. I think they might be the best in the business right now.
I do love those, so I'll definitely give it a check. Yeah.
I got spoiled for character choice in visual novels over the last couple of weeks. I also reviewed recently, I'm not going to talk about it here, but I reviewed a game called Scarlet Hollow from a Canadian company, Black Tabby Games, and they were the developers of Slay the Princess as well. And they're releasing Scarlet Hollow in episodes. They have 4 parts released. They just released a update to the first 2 episodes that they released many years ago. And again, just like the level of player choice and agency in these games is insane. I can only imagine the flowcharts that they have trying to keep track of all the various permutations of your choices over time. But yeah, I've been spoiled for choice with visual novels over the last little while. So I recommend this game to anyone out there who enjoys this genre, and I recommend them specifically to you, Tom. I think you'd really enjoy.
Yeah, I'd love to check them out. Yeah, it sounds fantastic.
Cool. So we're not going to do a discussion question today because we talked about 3 games. So I'm just going to pivot right now to our outro. So if you are looking for a way to support us here at RPG Fan and everything we do, from our podcast to our reviews, to our features, to our Twitch channel, and everything else, we opened up a store. So you can find it at www.rpgfan.com/shop. There's so much in there. You can find the usual, t-shirts and mugs and things like that. But there is a collaboration with Hyperplay RPG. It's the RPG Review Card Collection. And this is a showcase of nearly 300 of our review cards, as you can see on Instagram or Blue Sky or any other social media channel that we won't mention anymore. It's a really cool book. I have 2 copies on my shelf, one the early version of it, just like a proof, and then the real version. I just love them. I think it's a really cool book. Another way to support us would be to check out all of our podcasts. So you're listening to Random Encounter. Last week we were chatting about the release of Suikoden 1 and 2 remasters and the new Monster Hunter game, Monster Hunter Wilds. It was a really good episode. I know I've been hawking this for a while, but I just want to remind people we released a Canadian Encounter episode of Random Encounter a few weeks ago. I was really, really proud of it. This is super, super important to me right now for reasons. So if you want to check that out, I would appreciate it. We also have Retro Encounter. Last week we had the second part of their look at Tales of Grace's F. Just a reminder, it's gone to bi-weekly now, Retro Encounter, and I think that Zach is doing a fabulous job as the new host of Retro Encounter. We also have Rhythm Encounter, which is RPG Fan's music podcast. Last Monday, we were focused on the music of visual novels, which, as it turns out, is a super popular genre here at RPG Fan, if you haven't noticed, because I just ranted about 2 of them for 15 minutes. But really cool episode with some absolutely lovely, lovely music. If you'd like to get in contact with us here at Random Encounter, you can fire me off a message at podcast@rpgfan.com. Would love to hear from you if you have any feedback, suggestions for future episode themes. If you have any ideas for discussion questions that you would like us to talk about, we'll give you credit on the show. Anything else you'd like to share, fire me off a message. Love to hear from you. If you'd like to send me an email directly, you can do so at my email, jlogan@rpgfan.com. You can also find me at jonologan.bsky.social. I am on Blue Sky, and it is like Twitter in 2015. And I really enjoy it. It's probably my favorite social media site of the moment. It doesn't seem, it's not a horrible place yet.
It doesn't fill you with immense despair. Yeah.
Immense despair. My mother ended up clicking on a Facebook thing yesterday, not even an ad, just a regular post. And it was a scam, and it took her to one of those scammy Apple, your computer has encountered a virus page. And she's smart enough not to fall for that. She knows it, but she called me and was like, I just want to make sure that my computer doesn't have a virus. I know it doesn't, but I just want to make sure. And it's just like, yeah, Mom, that's Facebook now. That's what you can expect. Just scams and AI crap, of which I have not seen a ton of on Blue Sky yet. Tom, where can we find you online?
So yeah, I go by Dupes or Yo Dupes online, DOOPS. Don't ask me why, I have no idea either. Yeah, like Jono, Blue Sky is pretty much the only social media that I use these days, so feel free to follow me there. And since the start of 2023, I've also been, in my personal time, reviewing every single game that I play over on backlogged.com. That's the word backlogged without the E. So backlog.com/you/yodupes. If you, for whatever reason, want to read more of my writings, they're all over there. It's pretty comprehensive. I believe I'm now at 250 reviews since the start of 2023 and counting. So
that is impressive. I don't have reviews. I use a site called Groovy, GROUVEE.com, to track all the games that I complete. And I think last year, in a depressive fit, I literally went through every single game released from 1982 to today just to fill out every single game I've ever played.
How long did that take you?
It only took me like 3 or 4 days, not nonstop, but yeah. And there's something very satisfying about looking through every game you've ever played and been like, oh yeah, I remember playing. I don't know. Let's see here. I remember playing, DuckTales for NES, obviously. That's a classic. Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins. God, I love that game. Titan's Quest, which is getting a sequel soon, which we will be covering. Things like that. It's always nice to look back at the past.
Absolutely.
Okay, anyway, everyone out there, if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends. Helps get the word out there. And you can rate us on iTunes or other podcast players of choice. Tom, I'd really like to thank you for coming on the show today. You're giving up your Saturday night for this, and it's your first time on. I hope it went pretty well.
Loved it, yeah. Love to come back anytime.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate you coming on. Anytime, you're welcome on the show. So, great. Everyone out there, I want to thank you for joining us as well. And to everyone listening, whatever you're playing, have fun.